Common Sense Loonie, that's my tune, bringing truth to the red and white moon.
Personally, I am a man.
Howdy, howdy ho. A big welcome to all you lovely people. It's time for another Common Sense Loonie. I'm Rex, the Loonie, and we're breaking down stories from Canada with just a little bit of common sense. As promised in our last episode, we're tackling the controversial temporary foreign workers issue that has the usual suspects screaming at each other. We're also updating you on the ludicrous EV mandates with some potential good news. But first, we're going to start off with something we've been covering a lot lately: crime. And to start, we've got a couple of stories from Vancouver, so let's get into it. So we're going to start with a quick update on the Lapu-Lapu Day attack in BC. The Filipino community in Vancouver continues to mourn the Lapu-Lapu Day festival attack last April, which claimed 11 lives and injured dozens. As we've noted, the trial for suspect Kai G. Adam Low remains on hold, with a mental fitness ruling due September 10th. Now, Filipino BC is calling out the government's response as a social disaster. Filipino BC has criticized David Eby and his administration for a slow and inconsistent response, failing to activate emergency protocols like those for natural disasters. They say the underfunded Sunset neighborhood, a racialized community, has been left to rely on efforts like the Kapwa Strong Fund. They're demanding better government coordination, culturally sensitive mental health care, and long-term recovery support. Eby has proposed systematic reforms like a Mental Health Act review, a post-trial public inquiry, and a safety commission with recommendations delivered in July.
The report also found that the 2025 Lapu-Lapu Day block party was fully permitted, properly risk assessed, and well coordinated. As previously mentioned, the block party was appropriately risk assessed as low for a major public safety incident based on the evaluation of numerous risk considerations.
We stand with the community in their grief, hoping their calls bring the healing they need. And the crime continues in Vancouver. What is going on over there? So get this, early Friday morning, a naked guy in his 20s was spotted on a car downtown, yelling like a maniac. 31-year-old woman walking by tried to steer clear, but he ran at her, knocked her down, and, get this, urinated on her. Yeah, really.
A man was arrested Friday morning after he allegedly assaulted and urinated on a woman in downtown Vancouver. Police say the victim was walking near West Pender and Beatty Streets just after 6 a.m. when she encountered a naked man on top of a parked car. According to the VPD, the suspect began yelling and ran toward the victim, knocking her to the ground before urinating on her. Bystanders intervened and called 911 and restrained the suspect until officers arrived.
Bystanders had to tackle him until the cops showed up. I mean, I don't know if I could tackle a naked guy peeing all over the place, so hats off to those bystanders. The guy is now in a hospital held under the Mental Health Act, and police are looking at assault charges. But this isn't just a one-off. It's a sign of bigger problems in BC. Under Premier David Eby, crime and drugs are running wild. We've talked about it many times before. Mental health crises are exploding, and the streets are not safe anymore. His soft-on-crime policies and failure to clean up drug-fueled chaos have left regular folks like this woman paying the price. Fixing mental health care and cracking down on crime could cost millions. $50,000 a head for treatment plus more for policing. But Eby's too busy with photo ops to act. Enough's enough. They need real leadership to make BC safe again. Okay, let's move on from crime to control, aka mandates. So do you remember that episode a couple months back where I dove into Canada's EV mandate? I laid it out plain and simple. We've got no shot at pulling this off without wrecking things. We just don't have the resources, like enough charging stations, grid power, or even the raw materials for all those batteries. And with how slow our government moves, there's zero chance we'd ramp up in time for the rollout. It was always going to hurt us more than help. Fast forward to now, and Prime Minister Carney's announced they're suspending the 20% EV sales target for 2026. They're doing a 60-day review to tweak it and cut costs.
We have an auto sector, because of the massive change in U.S. trade policy, is under extreme pressure.
So he's pausing the Trudeau-era mandate that next year would require them to make at least 1 in 5 cars they sell electric.
They've got enough on their plate right now. So we're taking that off.
Carney says the government will launch a 60-day review of the mandate. Car makers won't have to meet the quota next year.
Let's be crystal clear here. This is not canceling the mandate. It's just kicking the can down the road for a year. Maybe. The big goal's still there. 60% EVs by 2030 and 100% by 2035. So the end result is the same. I'm happy they're at least pausing to investigate, but man, I'm skeptical as hell. The Liberals are obsessed with this thing. They've pushed so hard on it from day one, and I doubt they're going to back off for good. Look at the damage it's already done to our auto sector. Automakers are slammed with unsustainable costs just trying to hit these targets. They're fined if they miss, plus scrambling to shift production when folks aren't buying EVs like they thought. Sales tanked from 18% down to about 8% nationwide once those $5,000 rebates dried up, showing how forced this all feels without real demand. It's putting jobs at risk, scaring off investments, and adding to liquidity headaches, especially with U.S. tariffs piling on. The industry's cheering the pause, but they're begging for a full repeal because this mandate's restructuring our whole auto world in a bad way. And don't forget, the Conservatives have been gunning to scrap this since it started. Poilievre's called it a ban on rural life and pushing hard for repeal, saying it's government overreach at its worst. They've even got petitions and campaigns going full tilt against it. Listen, EVs, they're a great direction. I love them. Cleaner air, tech innovation, all of that. But mandating them in such a short time, forcing folks to buy what the government picks, that is straight up control freak stuff. And it's going to keep hurting our economy, jobs, and everyday Canadians if we don't pump the brakes for real. Delaying's a start, but until they ditch this obsession, count me out of trusting on this fix. All right, finally, let's talk about something that's been heating up in Canadian politics lately, the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, or TFW for short. Conservative leader Pierre kicked things off in a press conference in Mississauga on September 3rd, calling on the Liberal government to immediately stop issuing new TFW permits and phase out the whole program entirely.
We're addressing a program that temporarily brings people from low-wage countries to replace Canadians and drive down the wages of our people. The time has come for decisive action to stop the Liberals from using our immigration system to pad the pockets of corporate elites and other insiders at the expense of Canadian jobs. Again, the principle is very simple. The principle is very simple. Canadian jobs for Canadian workers. Canada first, Canada always. That's why Conservatives are calling on the Carney government to permanently scrap the Temporary Foreign Worker Program and to stop issuing visas for any new temporary foreign workers coming into the country.
He argued it's flooding the job market with low-wage foreign labor, taking opportunities away from Canadians, especially young people, and even exploiting the workers themselves. Poilievre pointed out that the Liberals under Prime Minister Mark Carney had already blown past their 2025 cap of 82,000 permits, issuing 105,000 permits in the first half of the year alone. He wrapped it up by saying Canadian jobs will go to Canadian workers and suggesting keeping a separate program just for hard-to-fill farm jobs. His shadow minister for immigration, someone I admire a lot, Michelle Rempel-Garner, backed him up strong. In a joint press release, she highlighted how TFWs now make up nearly 2% of the private sector workforce, with 3/4 earning below the median income, putting downward pressure on wages for everyone. She tied it to Canada's youth unemployment hitting 14.6% in July 2025, the highest since 2010 outside of the pandemic, and she noted there are 700,000 unemployed folks in Ontario alone, worse than during the Great Recession. Rempel-Garner called it a crisis, especially with the economy slowing, productivity tanking, and AI shaking up jobs, all while housing and healthcare are stretched thin. Now, right after Poilievre spoke out, predictable mainstream media and critics jumped on him, smearing his stance as racist or xenophobic. For example, a CTV guest straight up called him a racist for opposing the program, and others accused him of stoking resentment against migrants.
I'm going to be quite frank and honest. We are the Conservative Party, and Pierre Poilievre and MP Rempel are treading a very dangerous line of what I'm going to call a dog whistle of racism.
But, surprise, surprise, that narrative fizzled out fast when just a day later on September 4th, Premier of British Columbia and very left-leaning David Eby came out and basically agreed.
The Temporary Foreign Worker Program is not working. It should be cancelled or significantly reformed.
Eby called for the TFW program to be scrapped or significantly reformed, saying it's contributing to youth unemployment and putting huge stress on services like housing, schools, and infrastructure. So even a left-leaning guy like David Eby sees something's wrong with the temporary foreign worker program. So maybe it's not about race. It's about fixing a system that's letting everyone down. And Doug Ford, total silence from Ontario's Premier, which is kind of weird since just a month ago he was all about letting provinces fast-track migrant visas to get people working ASAP.
I'll speak for Ontario. We will be issuing our own work permits.
We called it back then. Speeding up visas could tank local job markets, and now Ford's looking kind of foolish again. We don't need more workers, Doug. We need more jobs. So what is all the fuss with foreign workers? Let's break it down simple. The TFW program lets Canadian employers hire foreign workers for temporary jobs when they can't find qualified Canadians or permanent residents. It's supposed to fill real shortages, like seasonal farm work, where locals genuinely aren't available. Stuff like fruit picking in rural areas or seafood processing in remote spots. But it should not be used for everyday jobs in big cities like fast food or retail, where plenty of Canadians are looking for work. Employers have to get a labor market impact assessment, or LMIA, proving that no locals want the job and that it won't hurt Canadian wages or opportunities. Problem is, it's not working that way. The program's ballooning out of control. Back in 2011, there were about 356,000 TFWs in Canada. By 2021, that doubled to 845,000, and estimates for 2025 put it at 1.3 to 1.4 million temporary foreign workers. Approvals for low-skilled jobs exploded. Food counter attendants like McDonald's or Tim Hortons went from 170 in 2018 to over 8,300 in 2023. That's putting real pressure on Canada. It's suppressing wages in sectors like food service and retail, where pay is stuck around $15 to $17 an hour despite rising costs. It's also straining housing, with rents skyrocketing and overwhelming healthcare in school and communities that can't keep up with the influx. Then there's the youth unemployed at that 14.6% high, with employment rates for young people at a 27-year low of 53.6%. Kids are struggling to get a foot in the door, especially racialized youth facing even higher rates, like 26.4% for Arab Canadians. And why? Because companies are hiring TFWs for jobs Canadians could do. Let's take a look at Tim Hortons. They've ramped up TFW hires by over 1,100% since 2019, 6 years, bringing in hundreds for counter jobs. Canadian Tire's got approvals for retail sales associates in places like Ontario, where unemployment's skyrocketing high. McDonald's, Subway, and Starbucks are doing the same thing for crew members and baristas in urban areas with plenty of local applicants. Why not hire from the 700,000 unemployed in Ontario? It raises a question about whether these firms are really trying to recruit Canadians or just opting for cheaper, tied-down labor. But it's not just hurting Canadians. The program's exploiting foreign workers too.
We have, of course, a need for temporary foreign workers in agriculture, in some smaller communities where it's hard to get access, the talent you need for your business. But there's a lot of employers that have now essentially built their entire business plans on temporary foreign workers, where they put up postings and they don't really try to hire somebody locally, and they're just trying to get someone and they can pay them a lower wage. We also have the LMIA system, which lets employers post jobs. If nobody applies, then they can fast track somebody for immigration to be able to do that. Now, it gets used in a proper way a lot of the time, but we've also heard way too many cases of fraud where people are being charged in another country. The employers are being paid for the posting, and quite frankly, there's exploitation happening in the system.
Man, that's the cheapest looking backdrop I've ever seen. Anyways, reports from Amnesty International in January 2025 and the UN in 2024 call it a breeding ground for modern slavery. Workers are often promised decent pay, like $30 an hour, but end up with less after illegal fees, deductions, or overtime without pay. They're tied to one employer with closed permits, so they fear deportation if they speak up. We've seen cases of wage theft, debt bondage from $30,000 to $60,000, recruitment fees. Enforcement is weak. Fines totaled only $4.1 million in 2024, a drop in the bucket. Here's another story from Toronto about a woman from the Philippines scamming her own people using the temporary foreign workers program.
A joyful dance from foreign workers, showing off their work permits golden tickets to a new life in Canada. Stories like these are all over this recruitment agency's Facebook page. It's called Link for Staff. It's owned by Janet Mosquito. She claims to have helped hundreds of newcomers for a fee. But behind the happy pictures, CBC found a trail of broken dreams.
Everything's a lie.
John Kizo wishes he'd never met her. In March 2023, the international student says he paid the recruiter nearly $3,000 to help him find a job and work permit.
It's really hard.
He dropped out of college, and Mosquito found him a job, but she never came through with the work permit. Kizo's now living in this homeless shelter, broke and unable to work legally.
I cannot pay the debt. I can't find a job. I can't even support my son.
Look, this isn't about being against immigrants or workers from abroad. It's about a program that's grown way beyond its purpose, hurting our economy, our young people, and the very folks it's bringing in. When even leaders from opposite sides like Poilievre and Eby say it needs a major overhaul, or even to be axed except for true shortages like agriculture, it's time to question if Canada really needs this as it stands right now. We can do better, putting Canadians first while treating everyone fairly. All right, that does it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and comment if you want to see more. The more voices we have in Canada, whether it be content creators or just commenters, the stronger future the country has. If you agree with my takes or not, I still love discussion. So as always, I urge you to comment. Anyways, all you fantastic Canadians, let's build a strong future together through discussion and common sense. Remember, stay strong, stay skeptical, and above all else, stay loony.
I'm here to cut through the haze, no disguise. Gonna open your eyes to politicians' lies. Canada's great, but led by wackos, it's true. Time for no nonsense, me and you. I'm the Common Sense Loonie, hear my call. Ditch bingo night games, we'll fix it all. Common Sense Loonie, that's my tune. Bringing truth to the red and white moon.
Personally, I am a man.